Nico. I decided to do my speech on John Woodruff because he is a good role model for me, teaching in how to keep going when people are against you, and he is very humble. The first time that he did anything was during the 1936 Olympics in Berlin, where he raced in the 800-meter Olympic race. And there's a picture of him racing right there, and that's a picture of what he looks like now. And during this time, Hitler had his great race theory, and that was also when the Olympics almost got boycotted because of what was going on in Germany at the time, but it wasn't, and he got to race. What made this race so extraordinary for John Woodruff was that he was boxed in the race in the very beginning, and he came to a complete stop, and then continued to move on to the third lane, and then went all the way to the finish line, which is different because he went from dead last to first and ended up winning the race with the gold medal. After he ran this great race, he was still met with a lot of racism and prejudice after he got back home. He was a student at the Pittsburgh University, and one of the first times that he was met with racism was when the Naval Academy excluded him from a track meet by saying that the Pittsburgh University track stars couldn't compete in the race if he went with them, so he decided to stay home so that his university team could go. And the next time was also every time that his team got to go anywhere, they were asked him to stay away from the whites on the team. And the biggest blow that happened to him was during the Greater Texas and Pan American race, which there's the sticker for it right there, where he actually broke a world record, and it was taken from him shortly after the game by officials who said that the track was 6 meters shorter than it was originally. Like, they measured it first, and then they went back after the race and said it was 6 meters short. So obviously they just did this because they were being racist. And recently my mom found a news article about this in the Dallas Morning News, and she decided to, with her math class, mathematically prove that he still broke the world record even though the track was 6 meters shorter, which his original was 147.8, and the adjusted would be 148.2, which would still beat the world record holder at the time, who was Elroy Robinson. He also was the first athlete to hold 3 championships in relays in 1938 and 1939. He also participated in the sprint medley relay in Philadelphia and set a world record there in 1939, and later set a world record in America in the 800 meter in 1940. Shortly after he finished the race, he went back to Pittsburgh University, graduated, and later went on to NYU, where he majored in sociology. Right after that, he became involved in World War II and joined our Army as second lieutenant, and during the war he moved up to lieutenant colonel. He was discharged from active duty in 1945, and he went back to New York and worked in many government agencies, serving as a parole officer, and also helped in investigating in the Department of Welfare, and he also helped in Children's Aid and the Recreation Center for the NYU Police Athletic Department. And many say that if it wasn't for World War II, he would have became a professor at a university and probably would have competed in many more Olympics competitions. But he didn't, because he decided to help America in the war effort, even though it was a time where everyone was being segregated and African Americans were prejudiced, which makes him why I think that he's a great role model, because he did what a lot of people didn't expect him to do when people are sick or prejudicing you and saying that you won't be able to race or be good at anything. So he surprised a lot of people, and I think that's a very inspiring, and that's why I also think that he's a good role model. And I think that a really good symbol of his legacy is a tree that he brought back with him in the 1936 Olympics, which was, they called it the Woodruff Oak, and it is now 78 feet tall, which just goes to show the strength and resilience of his legacy. And also, to end, SMU decided to come up with a scholarship in his name to kind of like do a right for what was done wrong to him about the world record that was taken from him from Texas. Since it was in Dallas, Texas, SMU decided to step up and give him a scholarship even though he'd never been to the campus or even